Hello everyone and welcome to the Toffee Blues. I'm Callum. I'm joined here by Paul today, and today we're going to be giving our match thoughts on the game against Man City. Before we go into everything, Paul, what did you think of the game overall?
I was impressed for the first period of the game, but I think in the end City just upped the gears and pulled away from us, and I don't think there's a team in the world who can withstand City when they decide to, hit top speed like the way they did. So I don't really think there was much to be angry about. We'll go into the specifics in a minute, but yeah, I think the fans who stayed until the end and clapped the players off, I think that was very appropriate. I didn't really come away from the game particularly angry. I just thought, well, it's one of them, isn't it? We would have loved to have touched something, but it is Man City at the end of the day. They're not the best team in Europe for no reason.
Yeah, that's it, really. I think there was a lot of positives to take from it. I think there were multiple moments where, you look at what you expect from a Sean Dyche team. It's that rigid, don't create many chances. But I think we created a lot more than most teams have been doing against Man City this season. There were a few times where we caught them off guard, and it just felt like if that final pass was a tiny bit better, we might have scored. But again, that's nothing to, dig at the players about. Look at the team we're playing. They're more than likely going to win the treble this year. I think it's practically almost locked on as long as they don't bottle the Champions League tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow they play. I think it's for AC Milan tonight.
Yep.
I think it's looking into the last two games of the season and then looking at our last two games that we've played. I see no reason why we can't stay
Get
up.
what we need. Yeah.
If we perform like the way we did, especially against Brighton, obviously, but even against Man City in the next two games, to be honest, I think we'll leave Molineux and Bournemouth with Goodison against Bournemouth with 6 points. To be honest with you,
that's the dream, isn't it? Just get this season in the history books and forget it ever happened. In terms of emotionally, we can't just let the people who've got us into this mess off the hook like we did last season. But I mean, just put it behind us and learn the lessons that sort of need to be learned. But yeah, going back to the game, I thought we set up perfectly. I mean, considering the options we had available, I think Dyche went with the right lineup. And we'll come to the left back situation in a minute. But this fit, when you've got a couple of injuries late on in the week, that's going to throw you the curveball, isn't it? Michaelenko apparently got injured in the last training session before the game. But there was no sort of, for me at least, glaring omission from the side or a player who was in the team. And you think, why on earth is he even there? Type of thing that needs must. I was happy that Mina stayed in. I was happy that James Garner was starting. I was really impressed with James Garner against Brighton. I think he's going to be a really good player for Everton if he sticks around for the long term. He's just had a frustrating first season with injuries, hasn't he? But for half an hour, I thought we did as well as any team possibly can do against City, especially if you're a team that hasn't got anywhere near the firepower that they've got, like we haven't. I thought we kept a really strict, disciplined shape. I thought we challenged for all the 50-50s we needed to challenge for. We let them have the ball when we were happy to let them have the ball when it suited us. They had a lot of the possession, but a lot of the possession was in and around the halfway line where Rodri was just getting his head up and looking for a pass and ended up just taking the easy option most of the time. Haaland didn't look like his usual smug self, did he? He wasn't really getting much service. And who else was I going to say then? I didn't think Gundogan was particularly in the game at all for the first 30 minutes. It just, for me, it went perfectly. It was the sort of absolute, textbook defensive performance you want to put in against Manchester City, especially when you're trying to just, get anything out of the game. It's not a must-win game. Like it was in terms of the situation we were in. We would have loved to have won, but it wasn't like we were like defending a lead or anything. Do you know what I mean? Oh, sorry, we were going into the game behind and we had to take the front foot in the game like we would do if we were lost the first leg or something. It wasn't that type of pressure that was on Everton. So for 30 minutes, it all went great. But as I said, Manchester City, they've got, £100 million players all over the field. Gundogan is probably one of the most informed creative players in the world. Kevin De Bruyne probably is the best creative player in the world. Haaland is probably is well and truly the out and out best number 9 in the world. They just went through the gears. They turned the dial up, didn't they? And they thought, right, let's get out of, let's take it from like a gas oven. Let's go from gas mark 4 to gas mark 7 or 8. and see if Everton can cope. And the first goal, I wasn't even particularly upset about the first goal, in the sense that I didn't really think there was anyone at fault. It was just an absolutely unwieldy bit of play from Gundogan. No player, I don't think any other player in the league could score that. It was incredible what he did. He wasn't even looking when he knew where he wants to put the ball, but he wasn't even looking at the goal. He had his back to the goal when he took the shot on, and he placed it perfectly in the corner where no goalkeeper would have got it. So it was a bit of a gut punch, wasn't it? But I don't really think there was anyone to stand around and point the finger at. I don't think anyone could have done anything more than what he did.
Perfect ball, and then everything after that was just ridiculous. You know, if you're expecting any of our players to stop that, then I mean, you're over-exaggerating yourself massively, especially the personnel we've got. I don't expect any of them. The second one, I think Holgate could have at least challenged Haaland. It looked like he saw Haaland jump get ready, and he looked like he went, I'm not going to attempt it.
The second goal was frustrating because it was, you could see it coming like a good 5 to 10 seconds before it happened. I think it was the ball, they switched the play to the right flank, didn't they? And Patterson went up for a header and didn't really have anything in mind for when he went up for it. He just wanted to make a connection, and then he makes his connection, but it's not a particularly good one. And then he's on the floor, isn't he? And the ball lands perfectly for who was their left back? I can't remember. I think someone played Gun. I know it was Gundogan who went round the back of the defence.
Yeah,
and
it was like
sweep the ball.
I think what it was I think both of them got ready to run. Foden made the run. So
Foden, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah,
our players tracked Foden, which has then left Gundogan wide open to cross the ball. And then
it was unfortunate in the sense that there's not many teams in the league that would punish us as brutally as that for one sort of split second loss of concentration or one wrong decision, which I think Patterson made. It wasn't wrong. It wasn't wrong for him to challenge for the ball, but I think he needed to commit to it fully, sort of thing. If he was going to go and get his head on that ball, he needs to know where he's hitting that ball to. He has to have an area to aim for. He just went up hoping to make a connection, didn't he? Hoping to just make some form of a clearance, and it just landed perfectly, didn't it? Foden, and then I think Foden played Gundogan in, and then he's just got the freedom of the church end, hasn't he? Just to pick his cross. And I know what you're saying about Holgate could have tracked Haaland better, but what centre half is going to beat Haaland in the air when Haaland's got his laser focus on the ball and he's determined to put it in the net? His header was perfect. He did everything brilliantly.
Even the height he got on the jump.
He got his jump perfect. He got his connection perfect. He headed the ball back in the direction that it was coming from, leaving Pickford a bit flat-footed. I think Pickford took a bit of stick, didn't he? People say he could have maybe got a stronger hand to it, but I still think that's harsh. I think there's not many goalies in the world who would have kept that out. Maybe Courtois for Real Madrid on his best day might have kept that out, but
the best of the best make that save. But I think Everton fans know Pickford's not the best of the best. He's not that. He's a very good goalkeeper, but he's not that level with your Courtois and your.
He's not top five. He's not top 5 in the world. He's top 5 in England, in the league, but he's not top 5 in Europe. Do you know what I mean? And
no, that's just one of those where it's a freak save for even like a Courtois or a Ter Stegen or something. It's a freak save if they get it. So expecting Pickford to is ridiculous, but it's like it's one of those where it's like you said, it's simple enough. City turned the gears on, and look what they did to Arsenal. When City turned the gears on, no one's stopping them. Everyone thought Arsenal had walked away with the league. Look where it is now.
Yeah, it was just a shame because we played so well, and then almost was the two goals in 2 minutes, was it 2 and 3 in the blink of an eye? It was 2-0 in the first half and 2-0 with over half the game to go. Normally you'd think, right, the game it's the result's not done and dusted just yet, but it's Manchester City. When did Manchester City throw away 2 goal leads? I can't remember the last time it ever happened. So it was effectively game over at 2-0.
I think the only one I can remember, and it might have been 2-1, was that random Brighton game right at the end of the season, one season. But they'd already won the league at that point.
It was certainly not it wasn't this season, and it wasn't last season either. Last time City threw away a big lead in a single game. So when it went 2-0 after like 38 minutes, it was game over. And Sean Dyche knew it was game over. That's why he took Dominic Calvert-Lewin off. Wasn't taking any chances. He said if the game was 0-0, he might have been tempted to leave him out there, but he's not stupid. He knew for all the grit and determination and effort that we were putting in and how much the fans were behind the team, which we were, nothing was getting us back into that game at that point. So it was just a damage limitation, wasn't it? And don't risk players who you don't have to risk. Just get them off and let Neil Maupay go on, run around and try and sweat a little bit and earn some money. But yeah, it was a shame. And the third goal in the second half, it was again, it's another way. It's a silly foul to give away, but I understand why we had to make the foul because I think it was a really poor header by Holgate, wasn't it? He put Foden clean through.
I think
Garner had to scramble, didn't he? Yeah, I don't even blame Garner for that. If Garner doesn't make that foul, Foden's going clean through for a one-on-one, isn't he? And he had to do something, and it was a really good free kick again from Gundogan. Maybe Pickford could have done a bit better. It was sweetly, wasn't it? But it was again it was in the centre of the goal, wasn't it? And those goals always look amazing, but they from the striker's point of view, but they always look bad from a goalkeeper's point of view. You'd always think if it's not in the corner, a goalkeeper should be saving a ball, should be saving a shot like that, especially if it's from outside the box. But again, I'd expect that type of save from a Quartar or a Ter Stegen, or don't even maybe an Alisson for that lot. But Pickford's none of those, is he? So he's a very, very good goalkeeper. I'm glad to have him, and I hope we keep him. But he's not going to be the goalkeeper who is going to keep out Manchester City and get your results against Manchester City single-handed. Sorry.
No, I agree. But one thing I think I will think is, even if it was just 45 minutes, is just highlighting Calvert-Lewin again. I don't know if it's just me and it's just because now you can tell he's actually at his best now. But it feels like he's improved technically compared to what he used to be. Some of the touches and the turns that he's doing, I don't really remember him doing that, even when he got 18 that one season under Ancelotti. It was like there was one turn right at the start off a Doucouré pass where he did something from City, and then there's the one for the first Doucouré goal again against Brighton, where he's taking these really good touches and almost positioning them perfectly for himself. Is it? I mean, it shows how different the team is with him in, doesn't it?
He's combined, hasn't he? What made him stand out as a raw young player when he first came on the scene 5-6 years ago, when he was just all endeavour, wasn't he? What was the famous Ole Gunnar Solskjaer quote? He'd run after an empty packet of crisps on a windy day. It was just all running, wasn't he? And then that season under Ancelotti, when he just became a slotter, every goal was just in the 6-yard box, and he just became a lethal finisher. He had a lot of good skill with flicks. He's combined both of them. He's got the weight rate that he used to have still when his body allows it, but he's also got the eye for goal and the sort of the hunger to get on the end of things. And it combines with, what's the word I'm looking for? The opposite of selfishness. A lot of strikers, like Lukaku is a good example. If he gets half a chance, he's not combining with anyone. He's taking the chance on himself, even when he should find a better option. Calvert-Lewin is smart enough to know when there is possibly a better option for him, and he's not, and he will lay it off for somebody else. Or if he's got the ball and he's got a chance to shoot, but he senses, you know what, if I just lay this off to someone and I get it back, then I'm even closer to goal. He'll try that as well. So I just think Calvert-Lewin has developed into a really top-class striker. And he's like Yerry Mina. If he could get 30 games a season out of him, he wouldn't be at a club that's in the state Everton's in. He'd be playing in the Champions League. That's just all there is to it. The only reason he's still here, that no club's come and bought him off us for big money, is because his injury record's just so bad. But if he doesn't play in these last 2 games, and I think he will, because it doesn't sound like it's a particularly bad injury that he had. They said it was just a bit of tightness, and I think that was maybe just down to the fact that he's played a lot of games back to back in recent weeks. But if he doesn't play in these final 2 games, then our chances of getting what we need from those games just, oh my God, they plummet, for the lack of a better word. They just go right down. I don't want to alarm anybody, but if we can't get Calvert-Lewin on the pitch, especially for that last game against Bournemouth, then I'm really, really worried. But I'm cross your fingers that he's okay.
Yeah, I think it's one of those now, though. Is it where now actually having a manager who's not going to rush Calvert-Lewin in maybe 2, 3, even 4 games before he should actually be playing. Do you think that's the thing where maybe now we might be able to see? I don't ever expect 38 from Calvert-Lewin like that. But maybe 30 to 35 games a season now, where he'll miss a few, but it'll now be he's not missing 10 plus 15 plus games. He's missing 4 or 5 in the season.
who knows? Do you know what I mean? We can't. Who knows? We're not a physio. We don't know what his body's like. Whether it's just it will completely break down on him given any sort of rigorous schedule, or whether it's just little tiny knocks that are avoidable if he just changes his training pattern or his his lifestyle. Who knows? But the thing with Calvert-Lewin, the fact that he's been playing so well, and the fact that hopefully he's getting fitter, and injuries are not bothering him quite as much anymore. The fact that I think he trusts his manager now. I think he trusts Calvert. I think he trusts Sean Dyche, and I think deep down he's very appreciative of the fact that Sean Dyche hasn't put any pressure on him, or didn't put any pressure on him to get him in the side straight away. Dyche was protecting him in the media as much as everyone was getting frustrated about the fact that Dyche was so slow to bring him back and wasn't really giving us a lot of information in his press conferences. He was very coy, wasn't he? And everyone was getting a bit wound up, saying, "Come on, this is the communication's not good enough here." I think Calvert-Lewin has appreciated that. He's been took out the firing line essentially with his last season under Lampard, and before that under Benitez. It was like they couldn't get him on the pitch quick enough, especially Benitez. The blame for Calvert-Lewin's being a crock, essentially his injury problems. A large portion of the blame belongs squarely at fat Spanish waiters' feet, his door, because he was told point blank by the physios, "Do not play him. He's a risk. You're going to get him hurt. You're going to get him injured out for a long time." And he didn't listen. And he put his ego before anything. He didn't protect the player. All he cared about was himself. And look what's happened to it. Not only did he damage Everton massively in the long run by injuring our top striker, our main striker, he damaged that lad's career, as far as I'm concerned. And even Lampard, I think Lampard was... not as bad as Benitez, but even Lampard didn't show him anywhere near the sort of, wasn't as delicate with him and protective of him as Sean Dyche was being. Lampard kind of threw him in first chance he got, because Lampard needed results, to be fair to Lampard. He probably felt like he couldn't take the risk. Dyche needed results as well, but Dyche's a bit more experienced, isn't he? Dyche probably backed himself to get results without Dominic Calvert-Lewin more than Lampard did, purely off his experience. But last season, Calvert-Lewin played a lot of games, I remember, even during that bad run of form he had, and he looked a shadow of the player he used to be. I remember everyone was going berserk at him in that game against, was it Burnley, where we lost, where he barely even broke into a run. And I think that was just because he was
were winning and they came back and beat us. The only game where that Weghorst actually looked any good.
Yeah, that one. And there was other games as well where Calvert-Lewin played and just didn't look anywhere near the type of player he was under Ancelotti, and didn't even look like anywhere near the player he was prior to that under Allardyce or Koeman, where he didn't score a lot, but he still worked his absolute socks off. He wasn't even running in a few games under Frank Lampard, and it was probably because he was in a bad... Well, we know it is now. He's being honest about it. He was in a bad place mentally, and he's been in a bad place mentally because of all the pressure that's been put on him by the fan base and by his managers, by not being more delicate with his injuries and not handling them better. So I think deep down he's massively appreciative to Sean Dyche, and he wants to perform for Sean Dyche, probably subconsciously. I don't think he's like an egotist player or a lad who throws strops or anything like other players are, whatever. I think subconsciously Calvert-Lewin really wants to repay Sean Dyche and wants to do well for Sean Dyche, and I think that's only a good thing, because as long as Sean Dyche is here, I think any manager, if we're ever going to see the best of Calvert-Lewin ever again for Everton, it will be under Sean Dyche.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where, the one player I look at, and he's always been compared to Calvert-Lewin, because when Calvert-Lewin first broke into that England squad and he played a bit, I think it was 2020. Yeah, it will have been. The one player he was compared to quite a lot was Ollie Watkins, and I look at him and go, I've always thought they were on a similar level. I still think now Calvert-Lewin is best and Ollie Watkins is best, are a similar player. So why not? There's no reason why, if coached properly, Calvert-Lewin can't score the goal. Well, I think Watkins is a bit better technically, but I think there's no reason Calvert-Lewin can't be getting the world 16, 17, 18 like he's done before after next season. But I think it's one of those where it's, focusing on the now. Again, another player that's been really impressive and I thought was really good again against City the other night was Dwight McNeil. I think it shows something about Dyche that though as well, doesn't it? Where the one thing I remember is Sean Dyche had enough of Dwight McNeil, and that's why he was sold from Burnley. Obviously, Dyche wasn't there, but one of the main reasons he was sold was because of a fallout with the club, and that fallout started with Dyche. So it shows that we don't have to worry as much about the ego of a manager possibly hurting the club. Like, for example, the one I think of is Rafa Benitez and James Rodriguez, Luca Digne as well.
Yeah. I don't really know what happened with McNeil towards the end with Burnley. We'd have to ask Owen. He keeps an eye on Burnley, especially when they were in the Premier League. I just know he didn't perform for Burnley last season. At least when you look at his contributions, I think he only got the 1 assist and no goals. But the thing with McNeil that's turned me around on him, because I've been really critical of McNeil, and I'll be honest now, he is proving me wrong. He's got to keep it up. If he just starts next season, goes back to being the McNeil he was in the first couple of months, then all this run of form he's having now doesn't count for much. He's got to be consistent. But I think the thing with McNeil is, I think he's a lot mentally tougher than we gave him credit for, because he looked like a player who was playing within himself those first few months. And some players are just more sensitive than others. When they get criticised, they go into the shell. They don't kind of puff the chest out. They're introverts, aren't they? And they don't really feel the need to, okay, I'm going to show all of you. Every player is different. Some need an arm around the shoulder. Some need a rocket up the bum. Some just need to be left to their own devices to work it out for themselves in their head. Maybe McNeil is maybe that sort of thing, where having a go at McNeil too much is going to be detrimental, but giving him kind of the arm around the shoulder too much is detrimental as well. Maybe he's just one of those players who will sort his own head out if you just give him a bit of time. And if maybe the atmosphere around the place and other, variables go in his favour, because a couple of other players have picked up form as well, and maybe that's sort of improved the mood around Finch Farm. I imagine it has, because a couple of months ago we looked dead and buried, and now we're actually look like we're very close to getting out of this now. We're not safe yet, but we'd have all snapped your hands off to be in this position 2-3 months ago. And I think maybe just the sort of general feeling around the squad is a lot better than it was. They think they've reminded themselves, yeah, we have got ability. We're better than some of the teams who are around us. We can finish above them, sort of thing. So I'm really impressed with McNeil, and if we end up staying up, he deserves a massive amount of credit, because he'll be one of the main reasons we have stayed up, because he scored more goals than I thought he had. I think he's on 7 for the season now.
7 goals, 2 assists, yeah.
7 goals, yeah. And, he was unlucky not to get 8, wasn't he? I think one of the goals against Brighton, he probably should have had an hat-trick, but one of the goals went down as an own goal, didn't it?
Yeah, because it bounced off the keeper's leg and just went straight in. But yeah,
if someone would... There's a good chance. Yeah, there's a good chance he could finish on 9 or 10 before the season's finished. And if when we signed Dwight McNeil in the summer, and some people raising their eyebrows, thinking, "What are we signing this kind of this sort of ineffective Burnley squad player for?" If you'd have said to them, "Okay," it said to fans, he's going to end with 7 or 8 goals, or maybe even 9 for the season, I think everybody would have been really happy with that, and said, "Oh yeah, that's exactly the type of player we need. A forward player who will come in and chip in and take the burden off the forwards so much." The only problem is he's been the only player we've got who's been scoring. I know Gray's got a couple, hasn't he? But Morpay's been a disaster. Calvert-Lewin's barely played. Other players we've got in central midfield. Iwobi has. Iwobi for as well as he's done. Yeah, Iwobi. Just the other players we've got, like, who you'd think would chip in more than they haven't. Iwobi, for as well as he's played at times, hasn't scored many. I don't think Onana's scored yet for the club. No. Takore's only got 1 or 2, I think. You'd want more from a player like him.
I think Takore's got 2, and he got both of them against Brighton.
Yeah, well, there you go then. So in a normal season, if we had more goals in the team, I think people would be a lot more pleased with McNeil than they are being. But yeah, as I said, hopefully it's turning around for McNeil now. And I don't want to crap on players. I think there's some Evertonians who they love being right, sort of thing. And I'm one of them at times, where they think I'd rather be proven right when I say this is crap or this is not going to work than be proven wrong, and the team and the players as well. I'd be more than happy for players to be amazing and to turn around and say, "You're an idiot for ever questioning me." I'd be made up. But you've just got to call it as you see it sometimes. And a lot of the performances have just not been good enough, and make you question why was this player even at the club? They don't seem like they get it. But McNeil seems like he's getting it now, and he's embracing being an Everton player for the first time. The shirt looked very heavy on him, and it doesn't look heavy on him anymore, and that's really good to see. It's really good to see when a player looks like they actually enjoy playing for your team, and they enjoy going out there and taking on opposition players, which McNeil's slowly starting to do now. So long may it continue.
I think one thing that's helped all these players now is that there's actually a consistent system at play. They know what we want to do when we need to do it. It's the one thing I've looked at, and it's the way we press. There's clear, like, for example, one thing under Lampard, it was just chase him. Just chase him. It didn't look like, there probably was, but it didn't look like there was any, any plan to it. With Lampard, it was just, we'll chase him down and get the ball. With Dyche, it looks like there's clear triggers of when you see this, and usually I want 2 or 3 to surround him, to chase him. There's actually like a consistent plan at play now, and it's clear because all the players are performing better now under Dyche. Maybe Iwobi's the only one who's dipped off a bit, but I still won't say his performances have dropped off massively. I'll just say the goal contributions have dropped off a little bit, and that's because under Frank he touched the ball a lot more than I think he does now under Dyche.
He played central under Frank, and that's when he actually showed, that he had something, because Iwobi for a long time was one of the most unpopular players in the squad, and then he got put in the centre by Frank, and he turned it round and actually showed that there's a good creative player in there, and there's a workhorse in there. And he's now that Dyche has come in, Dyche likes strength in the midfield and players who will go flying into tackles and will chase the ball, rather than players who want to just kind of take the time and pick a pass, sort of. Maybe that's not what Dyche wants to do long term. Maybe he's just working with what he's got, and he thinks that the best thing to do right now is to just flood the midfield with workers. But Iwobi's played pretty much exclusively out wide again under Dyche, and
a lot better than.
Yeah, he was better than he was at times under Silva, because I remember he was largely dreadful under Marco Silva and Rafa Benitez. But I'm not really sure what Iwobi's future holds for him. If Sean Dyche just sees Iwobi as a wide player, then I don't think Iwobi's destined to be at the club long, because we've seen it a long time. Iwobi just doesn't contribute anywhere near as much as you want him to when he's a wide player. He's got the work ethic. I think that's clicked with him. I think he's working a lot harder than he ever did when he first arrived at the club. But you've got to have output, haven't you? And his output, when he's played out wide, left or right, it just isn't there.
I think it depends on if he's willing to take a wage cut, to be honest with you. I think if he's willing to take a decent wage cut, which not a lot of footballers are, then I can see him staying. But because the new deal, if he wants $100,000 a week again, I love Iwobi. I really do.
What? No club's going to give him that, regardless. No, I think he's got to stay. He's got to take unless he wants to. He gets an offer from Saudi or Qatar or something like that.
One thing I could see though is I could see a newly promoted side offering him more. Or like
got Nottingham Forest written all over him, or whoever the next Nottingham Forest is. Yeah, just a team that's got too much money and doesn't know what to do with it. Yeah.
Like, for example, if Sunderland come up through the playoffs, I think he's got Sunderland written all over him.
Yeah.
Like that. You know what I mean? A team that will come up and just absolutely throw money, because especially if Sunderland come up, they're going to spend a stupid amount of money just so they don't go back to what they were. But I think it's one of those with Iwobi where if he's willing to take, I want him to stay personally. I think he's, he proved a lot of us wrong, and I think even now out wide he's doing better than he ever did out wide, because now I feel like there's more. It's out wide, but it's kind of a more free roll out wide. He's allowed to drift in centrally, and he's allowed to play those passes. And I think, to be fair, I remember one thing about him is he couldn't play across to save his life. Now, the only problem with him is he has to play those early crosses. But there's certain passes he'll play even now that I'll look at and go, if someone told me that under Silva and went, that's Iwobi playing that ball, I'd have went, yes, sure. Iwobi can only dribble. That's not the only.
Yeah.
But I think it's a thing with Dyche. I think Dyche is just doing the classic Sam Allardyce approach now of this system works to keep you up. We're going to play this, and then I could definitely see Dyche expanding and trying something new in the summer, because he said it himself that he's not this coach that he's been labelled with.
Yeah, he doesn't see the point in fighting the box he's been put in. Yeah,
but I think he also knows he can go out of that box, and I think you'll see. I'm not saying expect Brighton under Graham Potter or under De Zerbi now, but I think you'll see an Everton team that plays a lot better football than what a lot of people expect going into next season if we stay up.
Yeah, we're going to need better players to do that, though, and
we've got some investment in the
Well, yeah, that's another video, isn't it? What happens with, at the top of the club if we stay up or go down? But Iwobi, I can kind of take him or leave him. If he stays and he he cuts his wage. Because how long's he got left on his deal? Does he run out next summer?
1 year, yeah, 1 year.
1 year, yeah. Well, if he wants an extension, then he's going to have to take a wage cut, even if he starts performing very, very well. I don't see us offering 100 grand a week to any player in the near future because we've learned our lesson, hopefully. I don't think Kevin Felwell will sanction that, but I could take him or leave him. Or if he stays or he takes a wage cut and Dyche, wants to use him as a squad player, then okay. If Dyche thinks, no, you're not for me long term, you would a square peg in a round hole in the overall grand scheme of things. I don't really see what I'm going to do with you. Then I wouldn't have a problem if Awowi moves on. But again, it would just be a lot of money we're losing, isn't it? A lot of money we spent on a player and then we lose them at a loss.
I think we'd get a decent feedback. I think a team would pay us about 15 million for him. I know it's still, we're losing half of what we paid, but if again at the same time, if under Michael Silva you're going to get 15 million back for Iwobi when he only has a year left on his contract, I'd laugh at you.
If we get 15 million, mate, or anywhere near that, I think Felwell has done fine and dandy.
Looking at the transfer teams are playing now for players of that caliber. The one reason I think Iwobi will get paid is I think Jesse Lingard at his best is better than Iwobi at his best. But I think everyone knew as soon as Nottingham Forest gave Jesse Lingard 200 grand a week, everyone was like, we know what's happening here. Yeah. Everyone knew, I think. So I think it's one of those where we look at it and it's like you said, I'm very much in agreement with you where if Iwobi leaves, it wasn't. He played well. He had his moments, and he turned me into a supporter of him by the end of his time at the club. But players like that leave all the time, don't they? So it's not
he as well as he's done to kind of win people to his cause and take himself from being one of the most unpopular players in the team with the fan base. I think he's well liked in the dressing room, but he was really unpopular with the fans, and to turn it around like he has, it's heartwarming. But he's still not. He's not an indispensable player at all. I think the only indispensable player Everton have got is Jordan Pickford.
I think Pickford and maybe Tarkowski as well. I think are the only players that.
Yeah, I suppose so. But even then, I think long term you want to be getting a replacement for Tarkowski because he's not a young player, and we don't want to have another situation where we're relying on players when they're 33, 34.
I think if we don't go down, I'm not a Dutch football expert, but I've tried to watch a bit of him when he's played, especially since he looks really good. He's always been pretty good with both his feet. I think I noticed that even when he played a little bit for us. But I'd be very surprised if we keep him this summer. Very surprised if a good European team or even because now the problem with Bramford is a lot of English centre backs, and it's obviously changed now with Tomori and Smalling going off and doing so well. But European teams will look at someone like Bramford now and go, "Oh, you can actually perform outside of England." It won't. For example, it won't surprise me if a team like a Napoli will lose that the South Korean lad who smashed it and gone. We could probably give Everton 30 mil, and then what could we do? Double that, triple that in a few years' time if he becomes world class to an English team.
Maybe. I don't think he'd go to Italy because there's not a lot of money knocking around out there. But you wouldn't be shocked, would you? If
I think it depends. It depends on the team that tries for it.
I suppose, yeah, but you wouldn't be shocked, would you, if a Dortmund come knocking, would you? Because they've got a bit of money to throw around. If they're not going to sell Bellingham, it wouldn't shock me. One of these sort of hipster teams that are around Europe, they come in and take him. But I'd like to see Bramford come in and be a starter for Everton next season. But he's one of we can't make the same mistake with Gordon. If a team comes and puts money on the table for us, and for me that fee would be 20 million plus. I think we've just got to take it because it's all profit. We have to start being a team that makes profits on players.
I think the only issue with that is it's hard with, for example, with a young winger, I get it, but with a young defender, it's more because they don't come through very much. Really talented young centre backs for England, especially, don't come through very much. I'm trying to think. Really young, really good English centre backs.
John Stones
for us, and I'm trying to think now. Maybe
Joe Gomez. I know his injuries got his injuries kind of curtailed him.
Joe Gomez is like a Calvert-Lewin at centre back. He's one of those where when he plays, he's really good, and he'd start every game for Liverpool over Matip. But again, injury history and a bit of inconsistency.
Yeah,
I think you look at a lot of the players who played it for Man City against Man City, and you go, You know, one thing, for example, under Lampard, is if you showed me the squad, I'd go, 3/4 of this squad doesn't have a place here. I think now under Dyche, a lot more people have kind of put a foot down and gone, no, I deserve a spot at this club now. I think, for example, if you asked me just as we sat Lampard and now just under Dyche, I think my opinion would change on quite a few of them. And that goes both ways, really. Like, even with, for example, Connor Cody, I think Cody, he's a controversial one because the fact is he's a bit older, but then you look at it and go 4 million. But then, I think a lot of people have. It's hard, really, now, to be honest with you, because I don't really know where to judge certain players in the club now.
I would pay the 4 million for Connor Cody, but I wouldn't.
Well, Mina's off, isn't it?
Yeah, but I wouldn't give. I'd only offer him like a 2-year deal with an option of a third. I wouldn't be giving him 3 or 4 years. I wouldn't be doing what we did with Gareth Barry. No chance, because or with Ashley Williams, if we sign these players who are who were past 30 and give them 3 years or longer, within 6 to 12 months, their form could just fall off a cliff. They could get old overnight. It happens a lot, especially with players who have been around for a long time in the Premier League. You don't want to be lumbered with a player who has got maybe a year and a half, 2 years left on your deal, and you've just got to loan them out to get them off the books, like we did with Ashley Williams. So, for the 4 million, I would probably pay it for Connor Cody, as you said, because we don't know what we're doing with Branthwaite. Mason Holgate and Ben Godfrey don't look like they're ever going to cut it as centre back. Well, Mason Holgate is absolutely never going to cut it as your first team centre back for Everton. We'll come to him in a minute. Ben Godfrey is still young. Maybe if he just gets his head down and he has some proper coaching. Yeah, I think there's still hope for me. I know a lot of people have ripped Ben Godfrey off. Personally, I'm not ready to do that. I think Ben Godfrey, give him a little bit longer with Sean Dyche to work with him, and hopefully we can still salvage that one. But going back to Cody, I would sign him for that 4 million, but I'd offer him 2 years maybe, and say, well, if you don't like it, then go back to Wolves then. And when your deal expires with Wolves, see if someone else will come in and give you the longer. It's up to him, isn't it? Does he want to play for Everton specifically, or does he just want to pay for the team that'll give him a contract and keep him on the same money he's on for a good while? So Cody's again, he's a hot and cold player. There's some games where he looks really solid, and there's other games where defenses just kind of slice him to bits. But there's probably no other centre half out there who we can get for 4 million, who is a big step up from Cody. So I think Cody is just an ideal squad player. He wouldn't be my first choice centre back, but I wouldn't have a problem with him being third or fourth. And if he's happy to be third or fourth on a 2-year deal, then I think it probably makes quite a bit of sense to do it. But he's an old player. If he doesn't stay with Everton past this season, then I'm not particularly bothered. But I'd be happy to a squad place to be allocated to him. But we can't be giving him 3-4 years like we have done with a lot of other 30-plus-year-olds over the last few years, because it's just the same old story. They do well for a little while, and then as soon as they get a contract, after 6 months, the form just falls off a cliff, and then we're stuck with a player with years left on his contract who we just can't give away.
What did we give just again? How long is his contract?
3. I think he got 3 years.
Yeah. So, but again, I think we paid pennies for him, and I think he took a massive pay cut as well.
He did.
I think he's another one who's really improved under Dyche as well.
I think Gay's always been a weird one with me. Even when he was here first time, when he was under Koeman and he was under Sam Allardyce, and I think he had 1 year under Silver as well, didn't he? For me, he was always a player who was kind of up and down. Some people were making him out like he was absolutely indispensable, and I didn't believe he was. And when we sold him, I wasn't happy about it, but I didn't think it was going to hurt us as necessarily as bad as some people were thinking it did. And then when he did go, I don't know whether it was just because we replaced him with Fabian Delph, who never played and was crap, so the absence was felt even worse. But we look like, I feel like the midfield just died overnight without just a Ghana game. Maybe he was one of those players where I didn't realise how important he was first time, but this season he has games where he's either a 9 or a 10 out of 10. Or he's a 3 or a 4. I want to get a 7 or an 8 from him consistently, and maybe he can't do that anymore because he's up there in age now. But he's a player who I'm happy to keep around as a squad option. But I don't think he should be long term. He shouldn't be in the first 11 for Everton. And if he is a first teamer for Everton, then I don't really think Everton are going to be anything other than what they are, which is just a side that is in the bottom half, kind of fighting to avoid relegation. So yeah, there's a place for him, but we can't be trying to build anything that has him in it.
I think the one benefit we do have is that we've got two very young, very good midfielders for their age anyway, in Garner and Onana. I know Onana's dropped off a bit, but I don't want to just throw the lad away and go, oh, he's crap now after the performances he was putting in. I think he's still very talented.
I think the raw materials are there with Onana. Joe, he reminds me a bit of. He's a bit like that player who Nunes for Liverpool, where all their fans love him and will tell you that he's great and he's got a lot of raw material. And if he's just coached properly, he'll be fantastic. And then other people watch him and think he's a donkey because he's missing all these chances. Does he not remind you
of Fellaini? I know it's generic because he's big and Belgian, but can you not just imagine David Moyes chucking Onana up front in like the 80th minute?
Yeah, I can.
There's just something about the lad that he just reminds me of Fellaini because he's really big, but he's quite technically talented as well.
He is. I think he's a bit.
I don't think he's as good, but saying that, I think we signed Fellaini was quite a bit older.
I think he's a bit more intelligent than Fellaini because Fellaini was physically was a monster, wasn't he? But he did not do some stupid things. Fellaini he got himself sent off and he got himself loads upon countless. He got himself booked countless times for doing something stupid and unnecessary. And I don't think Onana's kind of got that streak in him. So here's when he goes and gets himself sent off now against Wolves. But from what I've seen about Onana, I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. I don't think he makes mistakes. Don't get me wrong. He plays passes that are not on, and he takes. He gets done by opposition creative players. But he takes risks. But I think they're educated risks. I think he knows he's taking a risk when he does it. I don't think he's just dopey, where like Iwobi often is, when he just plays a completely loose pass. And you think, what was he thinking even trying that? Do you know what I mean? I think Onana's got a bit of a brain about him. He's just young and he's raw and he's got to just iron out a few things. So I get what you mean with the Fellaini comparison. He's just, he's like a tornado, isn't he, in the middle? He just causes havoc everywhere he goes. But I don't think he's quite got the sort of hot-headed, daft streak in him that Fellaini often had. And that was a good thing as well, because Fellaini had you could turn that round and say, well, that was proof that Fellaini had passion. Do you know what I mean? And Fellaini wouldn't let anyone. Fellaini wouldn't let anyone bully him. Yeah, Fellaini, for all his criticism, Fellaini didn't let anybody walk all over him. No chance. He went out there for a battle every single time. He didn't manage to temper himself right all the time. Whereas I think Onana's a bit more of a level-headed character.
Yeah, I think it is one where you look at a lot of the players around the team now. I think it's good that we're actually now talking about a few young players and going, this player could really do something. When over the past few years, we've had Gordon, Calvert-Lewin when he was a bit younger. But I can't remember the last time we had a Moise Kean. You could see the talent, but he was clear the work ethic wasn't there. I don't think we've had young players where you look at them and go, yeah, a core of these lads could be in the team for a long time now. I can only think of Gordon over the past few years. Look how that's turned out for him.
You're hoping that there's the spine of a really decent side slowly coming to the fore, don't you? Whether it's your Branthwaite at the back, James Garner and Onana in the middle. Maybe I don't know whether Ellis Sims is ever going to, make it a Premier League level. But you'd like to think that he's going to. You'd like to think that the door's not completely closed on him, can't you? I think Sims will get. You think that there's no way forward for Sims, really?
No, I think Sims is good, but I think Cannon's better than him, to be honest with you. Like Cannon has gone.
I've not seen much of Cannon, to be fair.
Honestly, it looked at a point where, and it came to a point where I'd started watching a lot of Preston highlights to see what his goals are like, because he went on a stage where he wasn't that good at the start alone, and then scored like 7 times in a row, something stupid like that. And that could just be form, but it shows. You know what I mean? It shows that the goal scorer's in there. I think Cannon needs another loan. I think Sims should be in and around the first team again next season, because I think Morpay should be just shipped off. If we have to pay a team $1 million to get rid of Morpay, But yeah, I think
what the thing about Morpay is, and this really depressed me. When I thought about it, this really depressed me. Like, he scored less goals for Everton in roughly the same amount of time as Rondon did. Didn't Rondon get like 3 or 4? I think he got 2 in the cup.
Rondon at least scored in the cups.
Rondon got 2 in the cup against Boreham Wood, and didn't he get 1 or 2 in the league? I know he scored against Palace away, didn't he? And did he pop up again at some point and get another one? Maupay scored 1 goal all season against West Ham.
Solomon Rondon
hasn't looked close to scoring at any other time.
1 Premier League goal for us in 27. 1 goal, 1 assist in 27 games.
Yeah, the Palace away, and he got the 2 in the cup.
Maupay's got 1 goal and 1 assist in 27 games.
Yeah, so he's done less.
That's including the cup.
Yeah, against the non. And I know those 2 goals that he scored against the non-league team, but Maupay offers nothing. Do you know what I mean? He's a player who he was notorious at Brighton for not scoring in a team that made more chances than probably Manchester City did. Yeah. So the only reason we got him was because Brighton were happy. Yeah, the only reason Brighton were willing to sell him to us was because they didn't need him, and we only got him because Brighton was so happy to be rid of him. They took a rubbish down payment. I think the fee can reach 15 million, but we didn't give them 15 million. We're paying in instalments. We probably gave them like 3 million up front, and then another 3 million if we avoid relegation, and then another 3 million if he gets 5 league goals, and then if we
it'll be very much the Dele Alli deal, won't it? It's very much
it'll all be incentives. It'll all be incentives. But what's that tell you when a Premier League rival is willing to sell one of their strikers to us for next to nothing?
Well, that's it, isn't it?
Shows how little they think of him. He's just not Premier League quality, and he wasn't Premier League quality at Brighton.
It shows how run Brighton are as well, because Maupay was the main striker. To be honest, it was probably always been Danny Welbeck. It probably always had been, because he played consistently, and Welbeck was clearly the better player. But then they've gone.
Yeah, right, Glenn Money was there for a while as well, wasn't he?
They've gone, right, Ferguson, come on, lad. They knew. I think they knew this entire time that they saw Ferguson in the academy stuff or whatever he was doing and going, you're going to be in the first team. And that Undav Geezer who scored against Arsenal the other night as well. I think I know it's from their feeder club, so it's a bit hard to be like they got him for a bargain, because it's like saying Watford got a player for Udinese on a bargain. They practically pay nothing and just make it out like they're basically paying themselves. But it's a thing where you look at it.
No, but they were smart enough to go and develop that relationship with the feeder club.
That's it. Develop the relationship.
Everton aren't smart enough to go do that. I don't think we've got a feeder club.
Undav's from there. Matoma had a loan there. I think maybe even Caicedo had a loan there. Or one of the midfielders had a loan there as well. Look at how all them they've turned out. They're doing something right.
Exactly. So they're smart enough to go out and create these relationships and find themselves a good feeder club where they can get good players for a bargain, hopefully, or go and loan players out and develop them and see if they can kick on. We haven't got a single feeder club.
I think we've got Everton, Chile, and that's it. And
they're not even a feeder club. They're just some club that we had a friendly with once, and we've got the trophy hanging in the Goodison Park reception of Cedar. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So Everton haven't got a feeder club because we're just appallingly run. But we've said that loads of times. But just going back to Maupay, I haven't got anything against him. He's so clearly not Premier League level, and he wasn't Premier League level at Brighton. Because if he was, he'd have scored far more than he did because he got so many chances to score. He's just one of those players who, if you sent him to, like, I don't know, Holland, if he went and played for Ajax, he'd probably get double figures in the Eredivisie. If you sent him to Turkey, he'd probably get 10 goals out there. Do you know who he is, essentially? He's another Tosin. Really, he's just another Tosin who just hasn't played for a famous club like Tosin did. Like Besiktas.
Tosin better than him, though.
I wouldn't dispute that. That's just who he reminds me of, though. He's like Tosin, but he's a player who I don't even want to have a go at Tosin now. We bring him in. We think that just because he's played striker for this other team who we've heard of, that if we put him in our team, and he's fit, that he'll just come up with he'll automatically get 5 goals at least, and he won't. Because it's far harder to score in the Premier League than you think it is. It's not Football Manager. Do you know what I mean?
The one thing we should be doing, and it's because of what Eugene said here, and it just made me think about it. So I think the first thing we should do is look at the 3 teams that have got relegated this season. If we are not swarming teams like Leicester and Leeds, for some of the players they've got. Because the thing
cover,
is,
yeah.
no, it's worth a try. It's worth a try, though, isn't
it?
It's
yeah, but the players who they've got who are going to get pinched, who are too good to go down to the Championship with them, they're going to get.
I'm trying to think of ones we could realistically get.
If I could have one player, if Everton, let's just say, for argument's sake, if Everton stay up and the 3 teams that go down are Southampton, Leicester, and Leeds, right? Just for argument's sake, if I could have one player from any of those teams, if I could have one player, it'd be a choice between Maddison, who we're absolutely never getting. He'll go to Arsenal or somebody. He's good enough, or Ward-Prowse for Southampton. But again, I think he's got
as well.
He's got an Aston Villa written all over him. Ward-Prowse. He's a really good player. He's a bit older than Maddison.
I could see Newcastle. I think Newcastle are just going to do Ward-Prowse, Maddison, and Barnes, to be honest with you, and just go. We want all of them. We've got Champions League football. There you go. Nice meeting you, lads. But I still think even some of the periphery players who don't get as much attention. I think that James Justin for Leicester's really good. I think he's injured. The Belgian lad who plays right back.
I don't want to sign. I disagree. I don't want to sign players who've got injury records. I'm sorry. Do you know what I mean? We've been bit like that before.
I think it depends how much we're paying. I think if we're paying pennies for him, for a player like, but I think the only issue is it's not like our medical team have a good history. To your point,
yeah, I'm struggling really to think of how many players who I think we could realistically get who would go and take off relegated teams if we're not one of them.
No, I think there's always better options, but I think there's always a few players who get relegated that everyone goes, oh, they'll get a move, and they don't. The one I always think of is Butland when Stoke went down. I thought
you don't know whether that's because you don't know though. Maybe these players don't want to move. Maybe they're just settled and they're not ambitious enough to demand to go somewhere else. Maybe they're just happy where they are. I think that will happen, especially when teams in London go down. I think a lot of players just don't want to leave the area that they're settled in. But
I think that's the advantage of Leicester and Leeds going down, though. I think as someone who's from right next to Leeds, you don't want to live in Leeds. You know, it's one of those things where it's one of those. But I think it's weird because you look at it and I don't know what to think. I honestly can't tell you what I think is going to happen, which is why it's so hard to. And when we do eventually make videos on it, I think it's going to be so hard to talk about the future until we know what's going on with the board. Like we've got a hint, but that hint is still very much reliant on you've got to stay up, and obviously we haven't done that yet. I think, like I said, I think we're going to stay up on the same points that we're on now. I think we're going to fluke our way.
You think that we're going to? You think 32 would be enough to keep a team up?
I think that's what we're on now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think because every team below us is going to lose.
I don't think so. I think
the only one I could see pulling someone off is Leeds.
I think we need 35 to stay up personally. 36, I think, would seal it. I think 35 will probably be enough. 34.
35 would seal it.
If you'd offered me 2 draws out of our last 2 games, I wouldn't take it.
Yeah,
34 points.
The idea of a guarantee is much better.
Leicester have got a better goal difference than us, and I know Leicester are dreadful, but if Leicester get a draw and a win out of their last 2 games, which they could do because they're likely going to be playing West Ham on the last day of the season at home, and West Ham are probably going to have a cup final to play not long after. So, and who they got after? They've got Newcastle. For my money, Leicester have got. For my money, Leicester have gone. But I wouldn't. If you offered me 34 points now, 2 more than what we've got, a draw and out of Wolves and Bournemouth, I wouldn't take that because I'm not confident that would keep it up.
No,
I think we need to win.
Bournemouth. We should be beating Bournemouth. Wolves.
You say that, mate, but there's a lot. Bournemouth have got a good record against us. You know for a fact that Gunnarson's going to be on edge.
Pummeled us twice this season. What season was it when they went down and pummeled us like 4-2 or something? And then it was the only good game Moyes had for Everton.
Yeah, it was the second. It was the COVID season. Yeah, it was Ancelotti's last home game. We played City the week after.
Yeah, we could have finished like 7th and ended up finishing 10th because Bournemouth beat us.
Yeah.
Who else is near us? And Nottingham Forest start going down. I honestly think
you say that. I think Leeds have got a better chance than Forest. You know. Forest have got to play Arsenal. They've got 34 points, but their goal difference is the worst one of the lot. They lose their last 2 games. I think they're going. Forest.
Ooh,
Then
Arsenal
they've got
and Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park's not easy.
Crystal Palace, Arsenal at home. I think Arsenal are going to. I know the league's gone for Arsenal now, but I know Arsenal want to end the season on a better note
Well,
than getting beat at home to Bournemouth, getting beat at home to Brighton. They'll go out and regardless. Sorry, I'll just finish my point. Arsenal are going to go out against Nottingham Forest and play that game as if winning that game will win them the league, because they'll want to make up for letting the fans down the way they did against Brighton. So I fancy Arsenal to win against Forest big time. And then there's not many teams in the league I'd pick to go away to Selhurst Park and win at the moment. I think maybe they can get a draw, but that would take Forest to 35 points, which again would probably be enough. But if 35 points with their goal difference, we'd finish above them if we win one game. So yeah, I think Leeds, who've got West Ham away a couple of days after West Ham play away in Holland for the semi-final, I wouldn't be shocked if Allardyce goes away to his old stomping ground in West Ham and wins that. And then Leeds have got Tottenham on the last day, and Tottenham are in free fall, aren't they? So, do you know what I mean? If you said to me, who do you think's more likely to go down, Forest or Leeds? I think it's 60-40. Forest are more likely to go.
Yeah. Do you know what? Now that I've actually looked at the fixtures, I am more on the side of that. My only thing with that is, are Tottenham gonna? Tottenham. These last two games need to be a cup final for Tottenham. But saying that, Spurs are notoriously not good in cup finals when they get to them. So, I think it's one of those things where it's hard to tell. I think it really is hard to tell, because it would be the most Everton thing ever for them to get our hopes up in these last two games, and then to get pummeled by Wolves and Bournemouth.
I think Leeds, Tottenham on the last day will depend massively on what state of mind that Kane's in, because it's surely going to be Kane's last game for Tottenham, that isn't he? He's going to go in the summer. If Kane wants to, end his Tottenham career with a bang, if he wants to go out and put himself in the shop window,
you can tell.
You can tell which.
I think you can tell that Kane, that the way the Tottenham fans think about him has had a massive impact on his carear.
Yeah,
I think he left 2-3 years ago.
It's even if Kane wants to get himself noticed. If he's looking at these last couple of games and thinking, I just want to play out my skin to keep it fresh in everyone's mind, what I've got to offer. If he goes and it's two goals or gets 2 assists on the last day against Leeds and wins the game single-handed, then he's making his chances of getting bought early. He's probably going to get bought anyway, but he makes his chance of getting a deal in the transfer window early a lot higher, doesn't he? Rather than letting it drag on to August, which he surely doesn't want to do.
Yeah, because I definitely think he needs to. Because my only thing is, the only team I see realistically buying him is Man United. And you know what Man United are like with spending big money on players. Man United do not care about spending like 130 million on that kid from Osimhen from Finger. I don't think they care. I think they'll do it in a heartbeat. So I think Harry Kane, unless like there's a curveball and Bayern buy him or something, because Bayern need a striker because Mane has not worked out. So
Yeah, it will. I think Leeds' fate, I think, massively depends on what Harry Kane wants to do on that final day. If he turns up at Elland Road and thinks, I want to just win this game on my own, I want Man United on the phone first thing in the morning trying to get a deal done for me, and I think he could win Tottenham that game. If he turns up and thinks, you know what, I'm already thinking about my summer holidays, I'll just let me move go through whenever it goes through, then I fancy Leeds to, at the very least, not to draw that game, if not win it. And I think if Leeds what are Leeds on, 31 points?
31, yeah.
Yeah, if Leeds get a draw, if Leeds get 4 points from their last two games of staying up, I think 35 points keeps you up, unless you're Nottingham Forest, where they might go down on goal difference.
Yeah.
I think if you're Leeds or Everton and you get to 35 points, you're staying up, because our goal difference is better than Nottingham Forest. And with Leicester, I suppose they could do it, and they've got the best goal difference out of anyone down there. If they get to 35 points, they're definitely staying up, but they're going to have to win both their last games. I think they might win the last one against West Ham, but I don't think anyone in there, right? It could happen. Football is full of surprises, but I don't think any betting man is going to pick Leicester to go away to Newcastle and win.
No. I think it's one of those where, for example, so when on that weekend, I think Leicester get pumped by Newcastle. I think they get.
To be honest.
The only way I take it back. I see it being competitive for the sole purpose of players like Maddison, Barnes, and someone like a Tielemans playing to stand out to a team like Newcastle, because, especially Maddison, they're looking at and going, you're one of the better suitors to buy me right now. So
yeah, again, goes back to what I was just saying about Kane. It depends what attitude those players have got. Whether if they want to go there and prove a point, then it could be a competitive game. If they go there and they're already on their holidays, then I think they'll get beat quite comprehensively, like they did against Liverpool.
yeah, I
And
think it is interesting.
if they even draw on against Newcastle, that's not enough. Unless they win both their last two games, I think Leicester are gone. Whereas I think Leeds need a draw and a win. Everton probably just need a win. And I think Forest probably need a win as well. Because I think if Forest finish on level points with us or Leeds, they're finishing below us.
Oh yeah. Well, even Leeds have got a worse goal difference than us. So, like I said, if we
Not
all
yet.
finish
There's a goal in it, isn't
no,
it?
but I think if we're going on, we all finish on 35. That would mean Leeds have to get a win and a draw to defend. We get a win and a loss. So it'd have to depend on the margins really. That's where because
Well,
Leeds are
I
only
think
one
Leeds are
goal.
-25. We're -24.
Yeah. So I think it is annoying that the one season the Premier League relegation race gets really interesting. We're in it again because when was the last time it were 4 teams? The Blackpool year.
Probably, yeah. Well, there was 3 teams in it last season, but with us, Burnley, and Leeds, because the bottom 2 was nailed on for months, wasn't it? Watford and
now it's 2. Now the only annoying part is there's 4 teams with 2 slots.
There's 4 teams and 2 are going to drop rather than 3 teams and one of them will. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot more nerve wracking and because
yeah, it makes it. It's 50-50, isn't it?
Yeah, especially when you look at the things down there, because any of the 4 clubs that drop, in my opinion, any of us 4 are all 4 teams that are going to go into free fall when we're 4.
Yeah, it'll be catastrophic. Leicester are like us; they can't afford to lose the TV money because their owners on his arse financially.
Their only hope as well is that there's no relegation release clauses, which I can't imagine they will have. So they'll be able to get decent fees from Maddison and Barnes.
Well, I know Leeds. This came out in the Athletic. Leeds have got the bulk of their squads have clauses in their contract, so if they get relegated, they take a massive wage drop. So those Leeds players have got more motivation than anyone because it's their. I don't think they've got relegation release clauses. They've got clauses where they actually take a dip in money.
Massive court case against them though, and that's well. This is what happens when you're randomly watching YouTube videos at like 3 a.m. Do you remember that Augustine lad? They had a loan that one season.
Yeah, the guy who didn't he sign a deal for him where he had to meet a certain incentives for them to pay a fee, and he did meet those incentives, but they tried to sort of get out of it.
They tried to use the COVID season as an excuse not to sign him because the season's finished after a certain date that was written on the contract. But so they've had to pay 20 mil. I know they lost.
So
15 mil to Leipzig, 25 mil to the lad himself for uncovered wages, and then I think there's another court case for someone else as well. So they're that's 40 million they've had to pay out, lawyer fees, all that. So I think if they go down, they're in a bad place as well. Because the one
they're going to have to sell. They are going to have to sell a few players. Yeah,
I think the one problem with Leeds compared to everyone else is I think everyone else has got much more saleable assets than Leeds, even us. Leeds are
they've got a younger squad, haven't they? They've got a couple of they've got some international footballers, haven't they, who'll have suitors, whether they should or shouldn't.
They'll have suitors, but none of them will get big money. Like with us, I feel like there's still. My one thing is when I look at Championship players selling up now, is I always look at the Nathan Ake deal and go, well, so it's still possible if you negotiate right. So my thing is with us, we've still got players like Pickford. A team will buy Calvert-Lewin and they'll pay a decent fee for Calvert-Lewin. Not huge, but they will. Why would you not take the risk if we go down? There's players, but with Leeds, there's that Italian kid, the Spanish lad, Rodrigo, and
Jack Harrison. They've got a couple of American internationals.
I think the other problem is McKennie. I don't know what McKennie's situation is. I don't know if it's like you do
Tyler Adams.
Tyler Adams is one where I think a lot of people will look at him as well. But I think it's like with them, I think they are in even more. I think us and them, if us two go down, neither of the teams are battling for promotion in the Championship next season.
Well, I think the McKennie's on loan from Juventus, and I think if they go down, they're not going to be able to, activate the clause, are they?
Yes, so I think it's one of those where it's interesting. I don't know how it works, but I think it's like I said. I think it's most
relegation equals disaster, basically, for everybody. Yeah.
Most years, if we would have got relegated under like Moyes or something, we'd have all sat and thought this is horrible. But we'd have all sat and deep down thought we could bounce back from this. It's not the end of the world.
I don't think we could have, mate. We would have thought we thought that, but the club was financially on its arse under Moyes. He just did a much better job of papering over the cracks.
That's it, though. But
we had no sugar daddy owner at all. We were basically having to beg the banks not to foreclose on us before Moshiri came along. That's Bill Kenwright's legacy for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think with this. Don't get me wrong. If we go down, we are what Aston Villa were when they went down. We basically have a timeline. If you don't do it in that timeline, the administration.
We're everyone's cup final if we go down. But I don't really want to. We're not down, and there's a very good chance we're not going to go down. So let's try and stay positive. Yeah.
Like you said, to be fair, I think out of those 4 teams, we're in the best position to stay up. To be completely honest,
all those 4 teams, I think, would want our final, would swap their final 2 games for our final 2 games. No doubt we would. No doubt we would.
One of the games we managed to pip was one of the most unrealistic ones. Obviously, City was the most, but we've managed to pip results against like that 1-0 against Arsenal. I still can't understand that game against Brighton now. I still don't understand what happened in that game now. And I think Wolves how have Wolves been doing recently? Let's have a quick look.
They're really strong at home. I think they've won 7 of their last 9 home games.
Yeah.
But one of the games that they did lose was to Leeds.
They've lost to Leeds, lost to Leicester, drew with Forest, got pummeled by Brighton. 4-2.
They don't concede many goals at home, Leeds, but they're on the beach, aren't they? Their season's done. They're safe.
I think it's one of those where
we will go into that game wanting that result far more than Leeds will, or we should do, the same way we wanted that result far more than Brighton did, and the same way we wanted the result, I think, far more than who was the team we beat at home.
Give me a sec, I'll tell you. Are you thinking about when we beat Leeds? Or have you mentioned that already? Who did we beat?
No, we beat Leeds at home, didn't we? The
Coleman goal. We beat.
No, it was another one. Might have been Brighton. Might have been Brighton at home, actually.
Brentford. Dwight McNeil scored
Brentford. Yeah, Brentford was it? Yeah, where McNeil scored after like 30 seconds. Passion. We should have enough to just win these last 2 games, or at least draw 1, win 1. Just passion alone. Passion alone should be able to get us what we need. Just fans, passion, players fighting for the shirts. We don't need to have loads of quality players or loads of, or all of our best players fit to just get these results. We should be able to have enough to go to these 2 teams who've got nothing to play for and are probably thinking of their holidays to go and get what's required. And I think if we get 3 points, just 1 win will be enough. If you said to me now, you win Wolves away, but you lose Bournemouth at home on the last day, I think I'd have that, because I think whereas if you'd offered me the other way round, if you said you lose Wolves and you win Bournemouth, I'd take that as well, but I'd rather have the first option, because I want to be feeling safe going into the last day. I don't want to be going into the last day thinking it's all on this result, because what Goodison's like. She's good. I know the fans will be bang up for it, but it's going to be nervous as well. The fans' nerves get to the players. We've seen it loads of times. If we concede early, the place could just be a really horrible place.
I can't deal with another Crystal Palace again, man.
No, we can't have that. We're too young to remember even prior to that, mate. Imagine the fans who remember Wimbledon and was it Coventry, the other one in 97, 98.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, imagine that. Yeah, imagine the supporters who remember that, when those 2 games literally were the last 2 games, the last game of the season.
Yeah, like it's.
Like, I know Palace was the last home game, wasn't it? And it felt the same. It felt the same effectively, because we had Arsenal away as our last game, and we all knew we weren't getting anything there. But it was literally the bottom 3 was changing on the day of Wimbledon and Coventry, like it will against Bournemouth, and I just want it in the bag by then.
Yeah. I hope the easy hope is we beat Wolves, every other team loses. All of a sudden, it feels a bit more relief because it makes a nice story staying up on the last day of the season, but I support
It
Everton.
shouldn't be
I'm not here for the
celebrated.
story.
That's what Ken
All,
Wright wants. Yeah, Ken Wright wants, if we stay up like we did last season, Ken Wright wants it putting on the wall in Finch Farm, and wants to get the Echo headline safe as his on his office wall. It shouldn't be celebrated. I just want to get it over with and just be able to focus on the important stuff, which is getting those bastards out the club that have led to this disaster.
Yeah, I think one thing as well, one final thing is what is genuinely going to happen with left back against Wolves. From what is,
I don't know the extent of Michael Echo's injury. He didn't really give a lot of detail, did he? I imagine he will on the in the press conference he has on Thursday. If Michael Echo can't play, I will. Vinagre. People were asking what's happened to Vinagre. Apparently he's injured. I think he did his ACL. It's kind of got slipped under the radar, but I'm positive Vinagre's injured. Whether he play, if he was fit, I don't know because we've not used him all season, and that's got to tell you something.
It can't be worse.
I would.
It can't be worse.
I would, but he's not going to be an option either. He's apparently we've seen the last of him. Now he'll just go back to Portugal in the summer, and people will probably forget he was ever here. But if Michael Enko's not fit to play, then I think we're better just going free at the back, and just looking to hit on the counter. Just don't lose the game. Tarkowski, Mina, and Cody. Yeah, Cody's played in free. He'll know what he's doing. It will lessen the burden on Mina. Flood us the defence. Just keep balls out. Basically, if we can nick a goal and win it, great. But if we get a point against Wolves, then it's not a bad result at all, especially if the other teams don't win. And as much as I don't want it to go to the final day, I'll feel a lot better knowing that we're on 33 points going into the last game than I would do if we were on 32.
Yeah. One thing I will say about this is don't get your hopes up too much. The French second league is like the equivalent to League Two in England. The lads performing well.
In Kunku.
I'd say pump the brakes with that a little bit because the French.
He's one of those players I forgot was even here. We're never going to. Going back to young players who we don't think are going to cut it. He's never going to break through at Everton.
No, don't get me wrong, right? He's having a really, really good season. He's still quite young. But if he comes back, he needs a loan in the Championship to prove it. He needs a. I know he did, but like League.
Yeah, he's had one and didn't do anything. Yeah,
League is.
No, he's just one of those players who hopefully he's done well enough that some club will be convinced to give us a fee for him and we'll make a profit. Only paid 250 grand for him. If we can get $1 million for him, that's good business. I don't think we got him for free. I think we got him for nearly free, but I think we paid something, but it was really, really tiny. So if we can even get $1 million for him, that's a cozy little profit. He's just one of them. He's never gonna do anything for Everton senior level. He's probably never going to cut it in the Premier League for any club.
No.
So if we get an offer to sell him, just take it.
Hope some French team who saw him play well in the second division goes, we'll take a risk on him.
That's the hope. That's the hope.
Give us a few million, 2-3 million. Take it. That's still 10 times our money practically. But anyway, I think we have been going for like an hour and a quarter now, so we will end things there. Thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy, please make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, and we'll see you all for the next stream or video. Goodbye, everyone.